Dinner started like it always did, except this time I was the main course. They invited me home, not to feed me, but to chew apart my life. I'm Alex Tran, 29 years old, and I run a small AI logistics startup that no one in my family understands or respects. To them, I'm still figuring things out. Translation: I don't have a government job, a pension plan, or a clear title they can brag about at church. They talked about timelines, about stability, about how I was wasting my potential. Uncle Roger offered to help me get a job at the DMV. My cousin bragged about her bank promotion, shooting me a smug glance over her wine glass. No one asked what I'd built. No one knew I had just finalized terms for a 40 million partnership. And no one expected what would happen next. When my laptop lit up, the world they knew collapsed. You were always different. They say it like a compliment, but it never lands that way. I grew up in a family that worshipped routine. My dad's been a city clerk for 30 years. My mom teaches math at a public middle school. My uncles are either in construction or civil service. My older sister, Lily, is the crown jewel, a pharmacist with 2 kids, a mortgage, and a Costco membership. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Stability is a beautiful thing for people who want it, but I never did. As a kid, I used to take apart old DVD players just to rebuild them into something that didn't work but looked cool. I learned to code on a library computer. While Lily spent weekends studying for AP Bio, I was on forums trying to reverse engineer warehouse inventory systems for fun. My parents didn't understand it, but they tolerated it. At first, then came college. I turned down a full ride in economics to pursue computer engineering at a lesser-known program because they had a startup incubator. My mom cried. My dad didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I launched my first app sophomore year. It flopped. So did the second. But the third, a simple backend tool for package routing, caught the attention of a mentor. That's how I got my first investor and eventually spun out what became LoopTrack, a logistics optimization platform powered by predictive AI. It wasn't glamorous. We weren't delivering pizzas by drone or promising to disrupt an industry. We were making ugly software that helped warehouses run smoother. But to me, that was real impact. The problem? Try explaining predictive batch clustering and autonomous rerouting to a room full of people who think being on the news is the only measure of success, so I stopped trying. Family dinners became performances. I clapped when Lily announced her second pregnancy. I smiled when my cousin Dan showed off his new Ford Explorer. When they asked me how the computer thing was going, I gave polite, forgettable answers, until I stopped getting invited altogether. I told myself I didn't care. But when my mom texted last week, "Dinner at 6, everyone will be there, we miss you," I paused. Maybe they were ready to listen. Maybe something had changed. Turns out, something had, but not in the way I hoped. What they meant was, we missed the version of you that made sense to us. The version with a normal job, a clear label, and no startup nonsense. What they wanted wasn't connection. It was a correction. And on that night, as I walked into my childhood home, to find everyone already seated, papers on the table, and my name written on a whiteboard, I realized this wasn't a dinner. It was a verdict. We're only doing this because we care. That sentence has ruined more lives than silence ever could. When I stepped into the dining room, I immediately knew something was off. The table was set, sure, but not for dinner. There were papers, manila folders, even a printed spreadsheet in front of my dad. My uncle had brought a whiteboard, a literal whiteboard, and someone, probably Lily, had written at the top, "Alex, career recovery plan." I froze in the doorway. My mother gave me that soft smile, the kind you use before a dentist pulls a tooth. "Come sit, honey. We just want to talk." Dad cleared his throat like he was chairing a town hall. "This isn't an attack, Alex. It's an intervention. We've all noticed you've been stuck." "Stuck?" I echoed. Lily jumped in, flipping open a printed packet. "We did some research. There are a few government programs hiring IT support right now. Real benefits, good hours. And with your background," my uncle Frank added, "you could be running payroll in 6 months." I blinked. "Payroll? A steady paycheck, son?" Dad said. "No more uncertainty. No more pipe dreams." I looked around. Everyone nodded like they just solved the crisis in my life. Like I should be grateful. And for a moment, just a moment, I felt myself shrinking. Like I was 17 again, getting lectured about realistic college options. Like I was letting them down. Again. Then Lily said the thing that cracked it. "We just want you to have a life we can be proud of." The words landed like a slap. A life they could be proud of. Not one I believed in. Not one I'd bled for. Just one they could explain to other people without embarrassment. I stared at the packet in front of me. Job listings, salary tables, application timelines. Did anyone even ask what I've been doing the last 2 years? I said. Silence. Dad gave me a patronizing look. "We're not here to debate, Alex. We're here to help you get back on track." "And how do you know I'm off track?" I asked louder now. Because I don't have a LinkedIn title, you understand. Because I don't work at a bank. Because you're almost 30 and still chasing something no one can see. Lily snapped. It all rushed in at once. The condescension, the forced smiles, the disbelief that something outside their system could ever be real. I stood up slowly, my voice shaking but steady. You didn't invite me here to help me. You invited me here to fix me. You don't even know what I'm building, and you never cared to ask. And just as I turned toward the door, a ping sounded from my open laptop, still sitting on the counter. Everyone turned toward it. Zoom incoming call Martin Blake, CEO, Equix Logistics. My heart stopped. My hands didn't. I walked to the laptop, clicked, accept, and turned it so everyone could see. Alex! Martin's voice boomed through the speakers. Congrats. We're greenlit. The board just approved the deal. And just like that, the room went silent. Some people listen only when money talks. That night, it spoke louder than every insult they threw at me. For a few seconds after Martin's voice echoed through the laptop, no one moved. It was like someone had hit pause on the entire room. Then Martin, bless him, oblivious to the tension, kept going. We're officially moving forward. 40 million over 3 years, equity included. I told the board your AI routing model could cut our logistics costs by 22%, and they're ecstatic. I glanced up. Dad was frozen mid-blink. Lily had lowered her packet of job listings like it was smoldering. Even Uncle Frank looked like someone had just turned his whiteboard into a joke. Also, Martin added, the press release goes out in the morning. So keep your phone close. You're about to get flooded. I forced a smile. Thanks, Martin. I'll follow up in an hour. You bet. And Alex, yeah, hell of a job. The board's impressed. I'm impressed. You made this happen. The call ended. Silence. For the first time all night, no one had anything to say. I closed the laptop and turned around slowly. My hands were still shaking, but my voice wasn't. You wanted to know what I've been working on. That's what. No one looked me in the eye. Uncle Frank shifted awkwardly. Well, logistics. That's big. Mom was the first to break the silence. Her voice was small, almost childlike. 40 million. That's the contract value, I said. The company valuation's higher, but that's phase 1. Lily opened her mouth, then closed it again. I could see it all clicking together. The late nights, the vague answers, the silence at dinners, the reason I hadn't settled down. Yet, for a long time I craved this moment. I imagined it during every lonely night in that converted office apartment. Every time someone sent me a job posting with a "just in case Z" caption. But standing here now, it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like release. Dad cleared his throat. You could have told us, Alex. I met his gaze. Would it have mattered? You made up your minds before I walked through the door. He looked away. Lily spoke next. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was too busy building something, I said, then added, and I got tired of trying to prove myself to people who never bothered to ask. The room sat with that. Eventually, Mom moved toward me, tentatively. So are you okay? Like, really okay? I took a breath. Better than okay. I'm proud of what I've built, and I'm just getting started. They nodded, murmured variations of, that's great, and, wow, but the usual smugness was gone. The confidence that they knew better was shaken. I picked up my jacket. I need to get back. We've got investor calls first thing tomorrow. No one stopped me this time. As I stepped outside, the night air felt different, lighter. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one shrinking in their presence. They were the ones left small by the size of what they couldn't see. Until now, the walk from my parents' front door to my car felt shorter than usual. Maybe because I wasn't carrying their expectations anymore. As soon as I got in and closed the door, I let out a long breath. My phone lit up with texts. Jared from operations, Sophie from marketing, and Jasmine, my co-founder. Jasmine 742 p.m. Ciela Minendu heard from Equix's legal. It's real. It's happening. Full sign off. I called her before pulling out of the driveway. She picked up on the first ring. Please tell me you're out of there. I'm out. What happened? Long story. Short version. My family planned a full-blown intervention and had to watch me take a $4 call over dinner. There was a pause. Then Jasmine burst out laughing. Wait. You answered it in front of them. On speaker, I said, grinning for the first time all night. That's so much better than the revenge fantasy I had. By the time I got back to our office, still modest, still half cafe, half startup war room, half the team was there. A few had heard from Jasmine, others had seen early press rumors online. They were buzzing. Boss man's back, Jared called out. I wasn't used to that word. Boss. But tonight it didn't feel like a costume. It felt earned. Jasmine stood at the whiteboard, surrounded by sticky notes and pacing interns. Okay, recap. We got the letter of intent signed. Equix's legal will issue terms in 72 hours. They want a soft embargo until Monday, then press hits full. I nodded, switching into build mode like slipping on armor. What about fund allocations? We run lean for another month, then we scale. Clean, smart, deliberate, Jasmine replied. Also, TechCrunch wants an exclusive. My jaw clenched slightly. Let's not give it to them. She raised an eyebrow. Ah, still bitter about the time they passed on us. They said we were patch for a broken system that no one would ever fund. I reminded her, let's give the exclusive to someone who believed early. Jasmine grinned. Classy. Petty, I like it. As the team returned to their keyboards and mock-ups, I wandered over to the window, looking out at the street. Same city, same skyline. But I didn't feel like the same person who left that house an hour ago. It wasn't about the money. It was about reclaiming the narrative. All my life, I'd let other people write my story. Parents, teachers, interviewers, relatives who hadn't coded a day in their lives, but had plenty of career advice. But tonight proved something. I didn't need their permission to become someone worth listening to. I just had to keep building, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. My laptop chimed again. Press drafts. Drafts of the future. I took a deep breath, straightened my hoodie, and turned back to the team. All right, I said. Let's make this thing unstoppable. And this time, when I said it, no one laughed. Some people don't say, I'm sorry, out loud. They just start treating you like someone they finally believe in. The first message came the next morning. Mom, hey, 12 Amen. Saw something about your company on the news this morning. You looked confident. Hope you're getting enough sleep. Then a follow-up. Made your favorite. Chicken lemongrass. Come by if you're free this weekend. I stared at the texts, unsure how to respond. It wasn't an apology. But it wasn't nothing. Later that day, Lily tagged me in a LinkedIn post. Proud of my little brother, changing how logistics works in the real world. Keep going. Fen innovation, fee famil. I almost choked on my coffee. This was the same woman who, 48 hours ago, printed job applications for me and told me I was almost 30 and still chasing something no one can see. Now I was a hashtag. Uncle Frank called me that weekend. Hey, Alex. Quick question. My friend's kid wants to get into tech. Would you mind talking to him? I said yes, even though part of me wanted to laugh. Then came the kicker, Dad. Not a text, not a call, an article. Folded neatly and mailed to my apartment, no note attached. Just a printout from Harvard Business Review with an article titled, Founders, Who Kept Control. Why Purpose-Driven Startups Win in the Long Run. I didn't know whether to smile or throw it away. Instead, I framed it. Because that's how my father speaks. Through underlined articles and forwarded newsletters. It wasn't, I'm proud of you. But it was as close as he'd ever come. Family dinner started happening again. Only this time, there were no lectures. Just curiosity. Muted, awkward curiosity, but curiosity nonetheless. They asked questions, they listened. And when I spoke, no one interrupted. At one dinner, Dad asked, so how exactly does your system route packages around real-time disruptions? I blinked. You want the short version or the math? He chuckled. Surprise me. For the first time in my life, I explained a neural net model to my father without getting cut off halfway through, and he nodded. Not patronizingly. Not dismissively. Like he was actually trying to understand. It was a strange kind of reconciliation. Not the dramatic, tearful moment you see in movies, but something quieter. Earned. The distance was still there. But so was a new kind of respect. And I realized something. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is not need their validation anymore. That's when they start offering it. I used to think making it meant proving people wrong. Now I think it means not needing to. 3 weeks after the deal was finalized, LoopTrack moved into a new workspace. Nothing flashy, just high ceilings, clean lines, real desks instead of cafe counters, and a coffee machine that didn't wheeze like it had asthma. We hired 10 new people, built out a small operations team. Jasmine and I finally started paying ourselves something above survival mode. But it wasn't the paycheck that made it feel real. It was the quiet, the absence of doubt, of having to justify, of being questioned like a child trying to explain a dream to grown-ups who'd already decided it wasn't worth listening to. For the first time, I had space to think about the future, not just survival, to imagine LoopTrack not as a gamble, but as a blueprint. I started mentoring 2 young founders at our old accelerator. One of them reminded me of me, smart, scrappy, and surrounded by people who kept asking, so when are you going to get a real job? I told him what I wished someone had told me. You're already working a real job. They just haven't caught up to you yet. Back at home, things continued shifting. Lily emailed me a draft business plan for a health tech nonprofit she wanted to co-found. Would love your thoughts, she wrote. Also, I kinda get it now. Kind of. That was enough. Mom started bragging about me in her own quiet way, sending me screenshots from her Facebook group whenever someone asked about Startup kids who made it. I saw one comment under a photo of me and Jasmine at the new office. Our Alex is working with global partners now. Big tech stuff. I don't understand it all, but I'm very proud. It wasn't worded perfectly, but it felt perfect anyway. And Dad, he didn't apologize, not directly. But at our last family dinner, he poured me a scotch and said, "You know, I read that your software's being tested for emergency logistics in Europe. That's impressive." Then he raised his glass and said, "Here's to building something that matters." I clinked it without saying a word, because sometimes words are overrated. What I've learned is this: success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about building something right. Something that lasts, even when no one claps. Something that doesn't shrink to fit inside someone else's definition. And maybe that's what growth really is. Not the moment they finally respect you, but the moment you stop needing them to. The biggest victories don't always come with fireworks. Sometimes, they come in a plastic chair on a Tuesday afternoon, with no one watching but you. It was just past 4 p.m. when I wrapped up the last Zoom call for the day. The office had thinned out. Some of the team heading to dinner. Others still hunched over design mockups or integration dashboards. Jasmine had ducked out early for her niece's recital. The sun angled through the windows in that perfect way that makes everything feel earned. I walked out to the balcony, our tiny rooftop space with 2 folding chairs and a potted plant we kept forgetting to water. I sat down, cracked open a can of sparkling water, and pulled up my inbox. Among the investor updates and logistics dashboards, one email caught my eye. Subject: pilot complete. Emergency relief roadings EU from Equix Global Ops. I opened it. 1 paragraph. 2 deployment successful. Your routing model cut response times by 41%. 23 hospitals reached 2 days earlier than standard benchmarks. Lives were saved. Thank you. I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't fist pump. I just let it sit there, let it land. This was the moment I used to dream about during all those Raymond-fueled nights. Not the money, not the validation. This email, these 2 lines. I screenshotted it, then locked my phone. And I thought back to that dinner a few weeks ago. Whiteboard, resumes, pity-filled voices. I wasn't angry anymore. They weren't evil. Just limited by the definitions they were handed. And for a long time, I thought I had to fight that, to argue, to shout, to make them understand. But now, I realize, you don't have to drag everyone with you. Sometimes, the real victory is walking the path anyway, and letting the work speak for itself. Behind me, someone opened the door, Jared with his laptop, looking confused. "Hey, are you coming back in?" "In a minute," I said, eyes still on the sky. He nodded and left me there. Just me, a folding chair, and an email that no one else would ever see. But that meant everything. The boy they once called a disappointment just built something that changed real lives. No headlines needed, no applause, just be quiet. And I've never felt louder.